If you want to get noticed by recruiters at all levels of basketball, then EPLAY's Hoops at Home Challenge is your opportunity. Here's how you can participate in the Hoops at Home Challenge and create your very own EPLAY profile for recruiters and for yourself to watch your development throughout your career. Each week, we'll put out a specific combine drill for you to complete. Simply record yourself doing the drill, following our specific video instructions, and post the video to your own social media profile on Twitter or Instagram. Tag EPLAY Basketball and then use the hashtag HoopsAtHome. Then go to eplay.com/hoopsathome, click the Get Started button at the bottom of the screen, and fill out the information to start your very own EPLAY profile. Once your EPLAY profile is live, you can upload additional combine drills in the video workout section of your profile for approval. Check back to EPLAY Basketball for future combine drills and start building your profile so numbers can tell your story.
This is Brandon Dean, NBA Skills Trainer and Director of Player Development for EPLAY. Over the next few weeks, we'll be putting out a series of challenges for our Hoops at Home Challenge. These challenges will simulate drills performed at our EPLAY Combines as well as drills performed at the NBA Combine. This week's drill is the 3/4 court sprint. This is one of the simplest drills to perform, but it's one that a lot of scouts take into consideration when they look at your speed and how quick you can get to that speed. For this drill, you need to set up one place marker 70.5 feet away from your desired starting point. On your go, you're going to sprint all the way through the cone as fast as you can. Good luck.
Now, y'all know the drill. If you feel it, bob to it. It's all good. Welcome back into another edition of the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. I am Jamie Horton here with you as always, and I am so glad to be back with you guys today. Back-to-back shows this week, and this one is certainly one that's been a little bit of time in the making because these are two guys that I've had on the show before individually, and now we get them back as teammates yet again, teaming up with us here on EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. My man, our point guard at EPLAY, Erick Strickland, and Mr. Mike James. So glad to have you guys back on the show with us. There's so many things I want to talk about. I know we don't have all day to do it, but this has been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So I thank both of you for being here. And I know that you guys, I don't know, have you guys caught up? How often do you guys get a chance to talk? Is this the first time y'all have talked in a long time?
Well, I'll speak. I was still here in Dallas at the time, and Mike was, making his circuit back through the G League and back and forth between the G League and the NBA. And so I happened to catch him at a game, or it was either a game or at practice, and I walked up on him and surprised him. And so that was the last time we actually saw each other. Mike is he's a traveling man. He's a journeyman. And it's not just a basketball term. He don't mind hitting, the airplane waves and doing his thing. And so you can't catch up with Mike too much, man. He's going to be somewhere, either on a court or in another country or in another state, or he's on something. So that's the way I see it.
You know what? I think that like these podcasts and these opportunities are great because it gives guys opportunities that build relationships while we were playing. And then as life goes on and circumstances, you lose contact. But at the same time, you have the same mutual respect for that person that you had, when you played with them and you got to hang out with them. E is one of those guys that, when we said that we was doing this podcast, it was like, oh, man, I get to connect with my guy. I get to give his information again because, he was one of those guys that I really looked up to, even on the basketball court and off the court. And he kept it 100 with me, man. I was like little brother to him. And he was always quick to put me back in place. And I always appreciated that about him. And so even now coming back in connection, and, this is like definitely, even if it's just a what's up, E, checking in on you, man, ain't spoke to you. Like I could definitely see myself building that bond back with him.
Man, that's so cool. So, like on either side of me, guys, that you guys are watching. By the way, give us a like and a follow. EPLAY Basketball on Twitter, EPLAY Basketball on Instagram, and also like us here at EPLAY Recruiting Analytics on our YouTube channel. So, right next to me, I'm sitting here in between these two guys. I got 2 decades of NBA experience sitting here with me. So that's really a cool and a blessing for me and my audience to get a chance to kind of chop it up with you guys. So obviously, both of you guys, Eric, very familiar with EPLAY as our point guard here at EPLAY. Mike, we had a chance to speak for a couple of hours, man. I could have talked to you all dang day that day. Those were some of the best stories, man, I think I've ever gotten a chance to get into, and especially get to kind of pull the curtain back of what it's like to be in the NBA and to experience those things, and having to take the journey of bouncing around and moving around through teams, and not some of the hardships that come with that, and certainly the way it can strengthen you as a basketball player to keep going and keep fighting and keep playing and keep wanting opportunities and chances to show what you can do. But I want to start there with you guys. So we got a chance to talk each other's stories last time individually. But Mike, I want to start with you in terms of the player development side. This is something we didn't get a chance to get into last time. You guys spent a long time in the league. And the evolution of the athlete, the evolution of the player, the evolution of the way the game has sort of changed. In terms of player development, things that you saw implemented during your time in the league, Mike, I want to start with you. What are some of the things that you saw at the beginning of your career and the way that it sort of evolved towards the end of it?
Well, there was a pecking order in the beginning of my career. And, unless you was a phenomenon as a young talent, you would have to wait your turn to play because there was so many other great veterans before you, and there was so many great, so much wisdom that you learned from these guys. And as I became a veteran, I see the young guys no longer, they wanted to overstep the pecking order. They didn't want to wait their turn. They felt like they was ready now. And, when I was a young player, it was the CBA. And so the CBA was like thug life basketball. And then and I came out and I played a year in the CBA, so I got to experience it. And I remember I said I would never ever play in the CBA and then wind up in it. And so I got to see it for myself. And then as I became a veteran, it was the G League. So it was more of a pampered league. It was more of a farm system. The G League had more of a connection with the NBA. And, they were bringing their players, they would draft a player and then put him in the G League and he's getting 2 checks. So it was so much more pampering, I think, as far as play. And I remember being in Houston one year, and Aaron Brooks was a rookie, and they sent him to the D League, and he had like 5 great games where he scored over 30. But then it was like, man, we got to play him. He had over 30 in the D League. That means that, he's ready. But here it is. We got Rafe Alston, Steve Francis, myself, Luther Head, and he's about to skip all over all of us because of the little bit of success he had in the G League. And it's like, we got to play him because he's young, and we got to develop him now because he has to get ready, because we don't know if we're going to keep him in 2-3 years, and we got to get him ready to be able to get him to a place where we can trade him. But you're skipping the pecking order, and you're skipping how he's supposed to be able to evolve, because he has to learn from the veterans that have been doing it for some years, and then he comes in and learns that. But now I think the league just pushes them out there and say, figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, we're going to find somebody else, to do it. So now it becomes more of a physical strain on these guys, because not only do they have to perform physically, but mentally they still got to understand what it is being a professional athlete, and they haven't understood that yet.
Strick, I know for you, the situation coming into the league was a little different, right? You came into, and I'm a Mavericks fan, been there since day one, and you came into a team that was not good. This was a team that was fighting prior to your arrival to win 15 games a year and not be, finished with the worst record in NBA history. And so like guys like Lucius Harris, and there was a bevy of players that came in and out there, and that's where you kind of got your opportunity. Some of the things that you saw in terms of player development, especially, you get your opportunity, and then it's like, I gotta fight to stay here. I gotta do everything I can to stay here. What are some of the things that you saw?
Well, I'm going to give a different perspective than what Mike gave. Mike's perspective is absolutely true. This is not to negate it. I'm just going to give it a different taste on the menu. So, with regard to development on another level, it was very similar to like when he spoke of pecking order. Mike was also talking about you had to get in where you fit in, develop yourself. Sometimes there may not even be a coach available for you. Sometimes you'd have to find that veteran that just like to go extra hard. You have to find like a Hubert Davis, or you have to find like a Michael Redd, or you have to find like a Reggie Miller, or you have to find somebody that you know is getting the reps and is able to get the reps, and kind of humble yourself and jump in and say, hey, I'm a young fella, but I'm willing to learn. I'm ready to learn. And that gives you access, because otherwise you got to either come hours early or you got to stay super hours late. And that's okay. And those are things that we used to do, but that's part of it. Again, too, development wasn't necessarily, it was there, but it wasn't necessarily a focal point. Part of their ideas back when Mike and I were coming up, part of the way that they viewed it was, said my volume's low. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's just a little lower than us. That's okay. I can hear you just fine.
All right. So part of the volume that the situation was that you had to get the time in the off season, because when the season started, there wasn't a lot of time to get development work. So you had to kind of come in ready, and whatever you was going to work on in the off season, you might have just patched up and touched up and, just fixed up and honed in a little bit, but you didn't have time to add whole segments to your game. And so, and then your off season, you had to go hire somebody. You had to go find somebody, or you go back to your college and get with your old coaching staffs for college, and you do it that way. Because now they send coaches out. They hire guys that should be like Mike. They should be hiring guys like Mike, who were development guys like myself, guys like Robert Pack. They're getting, the opportunity should be there for those guys that have been through the grind and know the time that needed and necessary to get in. But they're sending guys to people's houses now. They didn't do that back then.
How much of a difference does it make, Strick? How much of a difference does it make, like when you go into a situation where it's a team that isn't very good, and they're trying to figure it out? They're trying to find players. They're trying to figure out ways to win. How much of it is different at that point to where you, not that you have more rope, if you will, or more opportunities, or more. I mean, like I remember watching you guard Shaq, guarding all 5 positions because that's what you were asked to do. And how much of the difference does it make when you go to a team that is just sort of trying to figure things out?
Well, that's tough in itself, because Mike and I also came up in the league. See, Mike is a player. He's a player. He's not. You can't label a guy like Mike. You can't label a guy like myself. There's others of us that are unique like that, right? So the versatility that we bring to the game is what gives us opportunity. The issue is depending on where you go, how the coach views you, how the organization views you, how they consider using you. Those things do come into play. And if you find yourself in a situation like, for example, I come from a Nelly system, Nelly's like a mad scientist, you know what I mean? He's not going to fall in line with what you want to do. He's going to create the mismatch. He's going to make you adjust to him. But then you go to a system like New York where Van Gundy's the coach, and you've got a lock stock system, so a player like myself, it makes it tough because he has a 7-man rotation, and that's it. So it just really depends on, the organization, the system. And that's important when your agent is looking at you as a player and where to put you and where to place you. It's important that there's an understanding of how your game fits the mode of their system, because otherwise you can get lost in the shuffle.
Mike, same question to you. Obviously, right after you went undrafted out of Duquesne, and then I think spent a few years playing like I was at like Long Island Surf, playing overseas, and then to get an opportunity to go to Miami. What was it like for you in terms of breaking in? Right? Was it a team that was still trying to find its way and looking for players, looking for people that could help? I mean, what was that experience like for you in terms of how you developed there to stay in the league starting in Miami?
I mean, I wasn't drafted. I never had an opportunity to perform in front of an organization before, so I went straight. Didn't go to no pre-draft camps. After my senior year, so I just went straight to Europe, and I dominated the overseas, and so it continued to allow me to keep my confidence up. Like, you know what? Once I get that chance, because I don't know, no one never saw me play on the highest level. So I was like, man, maybe if I get that opportunity, maybe I'm not kidding myself. Like, I probably can be one of the top players in the world playing in the NBA. And so because I'm still one of the top players in these leagues, and they're supposed to be Euro leagues, and they're supposed to be the top over here, but it's still not the NBA. So I continued to prepare. I continued to get better, continued to work out with some guys better than me. And when I finally got the opportunity to play in it was like a weekend workout with like 30 veterans, like 30 free agents there. And they just threw my name in there just probably to make someone happy. And I knew that in order for me to stick, I had to not just, I couldn't, no one could be equal. I knew that I couldn't be the same as no one there, because they probably don't even care that I'm here, and they probably have their eye on someone else. So I'm going to make them forget about that person that they probably have their eye on, and I'm going to go above and beyond. Not only am I going to pick you up 94 feet, I'm going to pick you up 95 feet. And when you get angry at how hard I'm turning you on the defensive end, now you got to guard me. And I'm going to show you, not only am I a defensive player, but I'm also very, very hard to stop offensively also. And so the one thing like shooting drills, they were like, Mike, we didn't even know you can shoot. So every drill, I knew that I was making sure I was making 75 to 80 threes out of 100, making sure that I knew I couldn't be perfect, but I wanted to be. I was focused so much on being so dang near perfect that, because I didn't want to give them no reason to say, you good, but you was just as we'll rather have this free agent because, he has the experience and you don't have the experience. So I wanted to leave all of those thoughts out of their head. And after the first week of playing, those first 3 days, they said, Mike, we couldn't evaluate you in 3 days. Can you stay another week? And I was like, yeah, I can stay another week. And so they brought in about 10, 15 more point guard free agents, and I outplayed them then, because I knew they not my friends. And if I want this is my pre-draft camp. This is my opportunity to really show them like how bad I want this. So I didn't hang out with no one. I wasn't trying to be no one's friends. I was the first one in the gym. I was the last one to leave. And I built this as a habit inside of me, because this is what I came into the game on. So this is what I knew, and how to make me better was my preparation. And so once they saw that, and once they saw me perform, they was like, he didn't get drafted, but there got to be something good about him. And I came in as an old vet, and that was another thing that I fought my whole entire career was, when I came into the league, I was about to be 28 years old that year. And so I was an old veteran. I mean, I was an old rookie. And so it was always, so every year after that, every time I tried to get a contract, or if I tried to, as a free agent, they'll always be like, well, you are 33, but I'm like, I played the league 4 years. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Like, even though my date of birth is saying this, like my body is telling something completely opposite, but they always just judge me on my body. I mean, on my age.
So you guys mentioned a pecking order, right? And I think that kind of goes into the idea of player development too. Did you notice or recognize, was there a pecking order in terms of the time and effort put into certain players, and then and was kind of feast or famine for other players? Meaning, if you're going to develop, if you're going to get to where you want to be, it's on you. I mean, I think we all athletes kind of say, well, it's on us. I got to get better. I got to prepare on my own. But did you notice that there was a pecking order in terms of which players got time and effort from staff, et cetera, and then you had to go I had to go find it on my own, and I'm going to let y'all crosstalk on that one.
Well, that's what I was alluding to when I was saying, about how you just got to get in and where you fit in and find that other person that is in that higher pecking order, that Reggie Miller, that, that they're going to apply that time. It was a blessing that I had Kiki Vandeweghe, who was here, that was just trying to, he was just looking for somebody that was hungry, and I was hungry, and that was my best in working with Kiki and getting my footwork. And I just, every day I made time to get with him because he was ready to put time into me. Now I'll let Mike speak, because I've alluded to that. That's what I was talking about, how the pecking order is there. You have to go and either find the time, bring in a homeboy, get somebody that you knew in the city to come in and meet you and put in the work with you, or because the coaches was going to Mike Finley, the coaches was going to Mike Redd, the coaches was going to, Jermaine O'Neal and Reggie Miller and so forth, and the coaches was going to Mike James, so forth and so on. So I couldn't get in,
I'll say I earned that a little bit, but at the same time, that E Strick is correct 100%, is that they really don't, if you're not a high draft pick and they not really high on you in the front office, and the front office for like, you got to develop this kid, then you got to find your own way. You can't be hanging out, because what happens a lot of times is you find like the young players they'll start connecting to someone, and it's either going to be the right group in the on the team, or it's going to be the wrong group. And then they're going to find themselves partying and hanging out, which takes away from their development. And even though the player may start building a relationship with the player, that don't necessarily mean that they're making front office happy, because everyone talks. And so you have to put yourself in a position to make yourself valuable, where they say, you know what, even though no coaches is working with them, look at that kid that keeps coming to the gym early. Look how he's always working, because there's always someone they either got a camera on the gym, they got the window where they can look down and see who's in the gym. But they always, even though they may not be saying anything, they're always checking and seeing who's the ones working, who's the ones putting in hours without saying anything. And now if you one of those kids, they like, oh, he ain't serious. All he want to do is hang out. See, they're not going to yell at the superstar, because he's doing what he's supposed to do day in and day out. But now when you're supposed to be the next up and coming, but they see you doing more hanging out than in the gym, well, that's going to help that's going to help their decision making when it's time to pick you up that following year. But most players don't think about that. They only think about befriending the superstar or the guy who got all the likes on social media, and that person becomes cool instead of the gym.
EPLAY numbers
that only works. What you just said, real quick, Jamie. That
Go
only
ahead.
Works for Damon Jones.
Yeah, it works sometimes.
I tell you, tell the truth, man. Damon Jones, bro, he get in with whoever the man is on the team, and he gonna work his mojo, and that's facts.
Yeah. It's players that were able to like try to like figure out. It's almost like one of those survival series where you got to figure out who you're going to pack with and who got your back to make sure you don't get kicked off the island, and you befriend this one and befriend this one, and then you turn them two to make sure you keep your place. Well, there's people that always try to jockey power in these ways, but you always learn that cream going to rise to the top, and that way of manipulation ain't going to always work in every situation.
And I feel like it kind of it goes into player development too, because this is an opportunity. Again, you guys follow us on EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story, EPLAY Recruiting Analytics. Give us a like here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EPLAY Basketball. Check out eplaybasketball.com as well to find out how you can get involved and how EPLAY is revolutionizing and changing the game. I'm visiting with Erick Strickland and Mike James here, two NBA veterans. I got 2 decades worth of NBA of veteranship and experience here sitting alongside me. And I think this is a really cool opportunity for us to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, because you guys don't stay in the league as long as you do if you can't play number one, and you don't stay in the league as long as you do if you don't have that competitive drive, if you don't want to compete, if you don't have that competitive fire. In terms of the locker rooms, in terms of player development and talking about how guys click up and everything else, I think some of that has evolved and changed, and we can get into that as well here in a little bit. But how much of that we don't get to see as fans and outsiders looking in creates animosity within a locker room in terms of, man, I'm the guy here that's here from the time the gym opens in the morning till the time it closes. I'm here before everybody shows up on game day, and I'm out during shoot around doing my things, and I'm working harder. But these other guys who have the hype and the whatever else that goes with it sort of get passes. How much of that sort of kind of can infect an NBA locker room? I'm gonna start with you, Mike.
I mean, you know, one of the craziest stories that I had told to me was Tom Thibodeau. I was playing with Chicago, but I'm 39. I'm 38 years old now. Like, mind you, I'm an old man now. I'm 38, and he wouldn't let me practice with the first unit. He told me, Mike, I can't allow you to practice with the first unit, because whenever you practice with the first unit, you guys blow out the second unit and it's no real competition. So I have to have you play with the second unit. And every time we played against the first unit, I would beat them, or the games would always be under 5 points. But I didn't play. You know what I mean? Like, I was still in suit and tie when it came down to playing time. I was the first one in the gym and the last one to leave. And Garth, one time, he comes up to me. He's a general manager for the Chicago Bulls, and he says, almost basically, you know, it's almost cute how you're in the gym like this. You know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, look how cute this is. Look at you. We see you working, and ha, 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 ha. And it was almost laughable. And so, you know, unless they respect you as a player, and they respect, not even really as a player, unless they respect your story, if they respect, you know, what you bring to the team, they're going to overlook, and it don't matter what you do. It don't matter how good you are. It don't matter how talented you are. If they got something that they don't like, if you got something that they don't like, they will always use it against you. Even though you might be able to help the team have success, they still will put you in a box. And because of that box, they will always make sure that it don't matter what you do, you won't be able to show that you can help the team, because I won't give you a chance to. So that comes down to how does the team think about you, the coaching staff, and also the front office.
Yeah, I mean, in like manner, I think that's the experience I had pretty much in the late half of my career. Definitely, you know, in Indiana, saw that in Boston. You know, coaches' favoritism or whoever they believe in, and they forget what you did for them to help you to get to the conference finals. That type of stuff is like, it goes out the window. It's like what you brought to the table. Now all of a sudden you bring in somebody else, and this is no detriment to like a Tony Delk. I mean, I got love for Tony Delk. He's a great guy, great player, good shooter. But when we're playing in the conference finals, he doesn't do what I do. And we don't 3-1 New Jersey without me taking care of Jason Kidd. And that's just facts, you know. So then you get into the playoffs and you totally switch up the system, and then you take an L in 6. So those type of things happen all the time. You know, and then you'll get, and for whatever reason, a coach has some animosity or some ill will towards you. And I wasn't one to just take it. I go and ask the question. I go sit down in the office with you. I have a conversation. Hey, man, what's up? What did I do? If there's something I do, please help me to apologize or say something. Is there something I need to do or I'm doing wrong? Tell me, because I just need to know. And I think that happens a lot, as Mike alluded to. It's a hard thing, but you do have some snaky cats too, because people do want your job, and I know that's what you was talking about. People want your job, and they gonna smile in your face, all along trying to take your place. Backstabbers. That stuff is real.
Does that make it harder? Like, cause we know the NBA, like I think anytime anybody plays a sport professionally, right? It's a brotherhood, it's a fraternity, because it's not something that everybody is capable of doing or getting to that level. But every situation is different, right? You guys got to the league, spent a long time in the league, which obviously says, number one, you could play. Number two, you're competitive. But as you get towards the latter part of your career, was it easier for you or harder for you to take younger players under your wing? Did you ever have an issue doing that? Or did you want to do that to help players develop yourself, or show them, hey, here's what you need to do in order to stay here. Here's what you need to do the right thing. Because I think human nature can come into that aspect as well and say, man, I had to work my ass off to get here. I'm not helping you. You trying to take my job, as Erick said. Did you guys ever have that, or was it easier for you through your experiences to help younger players as you got older in the league?
I'll be short, Mike, because I'm going to let you speak. And that's in essence what I did when in Milwaukee. I mean, I was labeled a captain, and I didn't ask for it. I wasn't expected to be captain, but the team voted me as a captain of the team, and it was a team of young players, up and coming players, and TJ Ford. I still got love and respect for me because I did that. I mean, I wanted them to shine. I didn't want to feel like I had to be the man or I needed to be on court. I was, loving Mike James' story. I had watched him come up. I'm like, dang, that's me. But he even goes to another level than me, because he's like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win. And if that means I've got to come off and I'm gonna be okay with taking a shot and missing it. And that's hard to do when you're a guy that's scrapping and you're fighting every year, to make a name for yourself. But he was willing to do that, and I loved it, and I was willing to let them shine and let them go, and give them a tidbit in the ear, man. If you came off that pick and roll, expect that. I was okay with that, and so that's what I tried to do in the end of my career, and I want to let Mike speak more on it, because he could tell me if I'm lying or not.
No, he was like I said earlier. When we first started, Erick was like a big brother. He kept me in line. He kept me. He was more mature. He was a matureness about him, and a great demeanor. Just that wise demeanor about him that he carried with. So that's not a false statement. And even when we voted you captain, it was because of you was like dad, like uncle, you know what I mean? And it was just, and we respected that about you. You wasn't out in the streets. You wasn't bad mouthing nobody, back talking. And that's what happens. I think that when I was coming up, I think the veterans, they took care of the young players. Eddie Jones, my rookie year, he brought me 3 suits. And so after that, that was something that I always did, with one of the young players that I would grow, that I would connect with, was I would get them a couple of suits made, during the season. When I get some custom cut suits, I will get one of the young players a couple of custom cut suits. But at the same time, I always noticed that the older that I got in the game, the less respect that the younger players had for the veterans. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same when I was coming up. I had such a respect, for the older guys on my team. Even though I wanted to compete against them, even though I wanted their minutes, I still respected who they were from watching the history of who they were, and then now having an opportunity to play with them and by their side, so whatever came out of their mouth, I was eager to be, I was all ears. And now, fast forward, when I was a veteran, everybody was like, man, I'm taking your spot. I'm taking your girl. I'm taking your this. I'm taking
taking it.
Yeah, like, I don't care what you got, I'm taking it. And it's like, man, you don't even want to play. You don't even want to learn. You don't even think I could teach you nothing. You don't think that I can help you. So it was like they wasn't even coming to me. I was more of a competition. I was more of a, when they see me, they'll growl at me. And so I was always, even though I would help in the places that I can help, but I always seen the young players, they would gravitate to the wrong veterans. They would gravitate to the wrong players. And it was never really about basketball and the game. It was more about what was going on outside the game. And that became more important than the preparation of the game. So it was hard for me to get somebody to come into the gym after hours or not during practice times because they have other agendas based off of what the other veterans were doing. And so, you know, that was the story of me as a veteran. Was like, man, these young kids is wild. They're not even really thinking about 5 years later. They're only thinking about what they can do now and what they can take from the game now instead of what they can give to the game.
That's interesting stuff. And that year in Milwaukee too, Mike, was that you were just kind of getting started, right? That was like 04, maybe 05. That it was early on in your career there, and that's kind of. Do you feel like Milwaukee's sort of kind of where you took that next step? Because then obviously I think you went to Houston and to Toronto, and then I think blew up in Toronto, right? That's where things kind of came to fruition for you. The importance of that season in Milwaukee. I'd love to hear you guys talk about that, especially as teammates.
I mean, I think that I just came off a championship the year before playing in Detroit. So, and, you know, I was a little hurt because Detroit didn't even give me a qualifying offer. They basically said anybody can do, you know, what I'd done for their team. And so they didn't even, so Milwaukee, they gave me the opportunity. They signed me. And it was like, you know, my confidence was so much higher coming off a championship team, playing with those guys. I was playing around guys that had a championship-bred mindset. You know, the way we talked, the way we thought. Only thing it wasn't about trying to win 50, 60 games in a regular season. Only thing we were thinking about was winning 16 games in the playoffs. And so being in that type of mindset, that's where I was, and I wanted another one. You know what I mean? I was like, man, that was Chauncey's championship ring. I backed up Chauncey, but at the end of the day, I was like, man, Chauncey deserved that. He was the MVP. I want that feeling. I want to be able to lead a team to 16 wins in the postseason, and that was my drive after spending that time in Detroit. But when I got to other teams, the front office was like, listen, slow down, cowboy. You are a backup. You are a third guard, backup guard best. Like, you know, like all this you talking about how highly of yourself that you think. Listen, we didn't bring you here to average no double digits for us and get double digit assists. We want you to play a role. We want you to play maybe 15 minutes. This is what you do. You knock down open shots. We don't want you shooting shots and breaking the play and thinking and doing these things. We want you to be. And so I didn't fit a role a lot of times because when I got in the game, I bust my tail so hard preparing for one moment. I get in the game. I do an hour of dribbling drills every single day so I can get exactly where I want to get on the basketball court. I shot thousands of jump shots because when I shot the ball, I believe it went in the basket 95% of the time. So now when I stepped on the court, man, my swag was on 10. You couldn't tell me when you saw James on the back of my jersey, you didn't know if it was LeBron James or Mike James because my confidence was just as high as his. You know, if the coach drew up a play for me, that this is my play and it's going through me, you know, because I just believe that I didn't just believe in my skill. I believed in my work, and I watched what I was doing in work, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to get to opportunity to be able to show people what I'm doing, what they don't get to see. I get to show them now it's game time, and the only way that I can showcase my work is to perform. And I'm going to perform like I'm a superstar, even though everybody in the front office is pulling out their hair every time I shoot a shot or every time I make a move because that's not what they want from me. They want me to fit their mold.
Strick, I want to hear about your experiences there in Milwaukee. That was an interesting team too, if I believe right. I had Tony Kukoc on that team, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird team with like mix of veterans and younger guys. I know Eddie House, who had a long career there as well.
Second oldest. Tony was the oldest. I was the second oldest on that team. It was crazy. Got it.
Yeah, Joe Smith. Yeah,
be that super of a vet, but it was a very young team. Exciting. I think we had great components to go deep. We just didn't have the big men. We didn't have the front court that was needed and necessary to go on a deep run. I love Dan Gedzerich and the likes of them, but when you're in the East and it's physical and you gotta bang it out. They just not in 7. We didn't have 7 to go up against an Indiana and with Jermaine O'Neal and the likes of them and Jeff Foster and of course the Detroit teams and New York still, I think still what Camby them was around, I think, and a lot of guys that just banged out, man, and we didn't have that. But just on a note, I mean, I think it was it's just real interesting to have gone. I loved every aspect of what the NBA brought to me. I was a starter. I learned, how to lead and how to be effective on the court from that aspect, the sixth man, as well. And then just a cheerleader, somebody who was okay with sitting there and cheering the guys on. And whenever I got an opportunity to get out there, it was good. Part of me, I was a rhythm guy though. And so it was real difficult for my game because I was a rhythm player. And as a rhythm player, it's tough to get a 5-minute spurt because, I need to get revved up. If I get revved up or I know kind of where I sit, I can kind of, but I didn't really get that. The coaching staff really never, it was just so sporadic and it made it difficult on that aspect, but I didn't mind cheering. But one of the things that I wish I had was what we're doing right now. I wish we had numbers that would help us, guys like Mike and I, to tell our stories, to really help us to dig into or to go in with strength to a team. Even if they looked at us a certain way, they didn't believe we can add or be an addition, but here's these numbers and here's how they speak. And if you don't want it, somebody will. And if you didn't have the right agent to do that on your behalf, there was an agenda behind the agent or the agent had another player that they kind of were pushing along, then you needed to be able to have that for yourself so that it can tell your story for marketing purposes. If I would have had, stuff, the numbers like we have right now at EPLAY and that we're putting together, it would have been easy for me to go and market myself for marketing opportunities because, they need to be able to know, what they see of you on the court. Sometimes they don't understand what's behind just the few segments that they see of you and what's being pushed on the news and all the other stuff is maybe the best player on the team. But guys like that can speak to somebody's brand, a hard worker, a grinder, a guy who's got great integrity, a person that's not going to give up, a person that's going to, be hardened when the game's on the line. Sometimes that speaks to people's brands, but if they can't see that if they don't get to see that, you can show them that. And that's what I think what we're trying to do. And that's what I wish I would have been able to have towards the end of my career, because it could have showed, I could have basically went in and had a sit down conversation to be able to delve into the depths of what I'm able to tell them about my value.
And I'm glad we got here to this point, because that's kind of what I wanted to segue into in terms of the way you guys, you've remained around the game. I know, Strick, you remained around the game, obviously, with EPLAY, and I know you officiate and all that kind of stuff. And I know you guys, even though the playing days are over, you still stay close to the game. It's hard to let it go because it's something that you put so much time, effort, energy, and a big chunk of your life into. And I asked earlier about how animosity can develop, right? Because some guys are getting more love and attention than other guys that are out here having to grind and everything else just because they didn't have the hype or whatever. But it doesn't mean that the skills aren't necessarily all the same. So now that you've had a chance to kind of be away from the playing days and take a look at it, and you've got the fan side and everything else, but it being a fraternity, it being a brotherhood, the rooting for guys to see ultimately the best product that you can on the floor. Right. So you do root now. I mean, I think it's awesome that we've got an NBA G League. We got the developmental leagues. We've got guys that have had opportunities now that perhaps weren't there before or were sort of in their infancy trying to get going. So now on the outside looking in, do you like the fact that do you appreciate the fact that these players and that the game has evolved so much that first of all, there's so many players that want to be involved, A, and that B, that they have more resources available to them. Is that something that you're happy to see now? And do you feel like you guys were a part of laying the groundwork and the foundation for a lot of the stuff that we see now? I'll start with you, Mike.
I mean, one, I think that they make it extremely difficult for ex-athletes to get involved in the coaching. You know, I think that they created, there's more, because of analytics, there's more people that have spent years in the video room, and they know because it's almost like a person that builds your website. You know, they're going to know your business based off the information that they have to put on the website so everyone can see, but they may not really be a part of the business. They may not, but they're going to know the business, you know, and they may have a understanding of your numbers based off of what they have to type in on the website. But that don't necessarily mean that they know really what's going on. And so it's someone that's never played the game of basketball, but they understand the analytics. They understand the numbers, so they understand what a 5 is supposed to do, what a 4 is supposed to do, what a 3 is supposed to do based off of averages. And so that don't necessarily mean that that's going to give them the true understanding of what it takes to teach someone, put them in position to be successful. You know, you can't even really judge an athlete. You can basically give a story for yourself, you know, based off of numbers. Look, this is what I'm doing, so you can't deny me compared to all the guards in the league. This is my numbers based on what, you know, you guys award, which is analytics. But at the same time, analytics don't tell the whole story. It don't tell the player's personality. It don't tell whether or not are they just playing for a contract this year. You know, I think personally, if you're going to spend money on a person like that and you're going to spend millions and millions of dollars, well, you should do a little bit of background check on who this person is and not just judge based on what they're doing off the court. Well, who the heck are they off the court? Because if I'm going to spend $40, $50 million on something, I'm pretty sure if I'm going to invest $5 million, I'm gonna invest $100,000. Who am I getting in bed with? Who is this person that is basically trying to get me to put up money with them? Well, you know what? Let me do some little research and some background check on who they are, what they like to do, where they like to go, who they like to be around. And I don't think that, you know, they only use analytics based on statistics, but they don't use it based on the person. You know, now you get someone, you sign a contract, and now you get that average of, well, as soon as they sign the contract, their whole career fell off. They don't even have a great speech because they got exactly what they was looking for, their money. And
that's good.
And and if you never played the game, you can't read that type of person. If you've never been around type of people, if you never experienced the game, how can you judge if a person is serious or are they just in it for the money? How can you judge if they're going to fall off in a year or so, or are they going to continue to keep getting better each year? If you never played, you don't have that type of feel for the game. But that's the problem of the game. They're putting people in position to make those type of decisions on scouting, on, you know, on players, on all of this, but at the same time, they only picking and scouting based off of, oh, this kid is averaging 30 and 10.
Hey, Strick,
Yeah.
Strick and Mike both, but Strick too. Like, how many times did you guys see analytics used against you when you were going for a contract, or were you trying to, get another contract, get another deal, stay in the league? How often did you see guys use your numbers, anomalous numbers, not everything, but one or two little anomalies, and say, this is why you don't bring this kind of value? How often did you see analytics and numbers used against you at the negotiating table?
Well, I think it's crazy because it's just like if you look at our political systems today, right? Everybody goes to an extreme. The problem exists is that you have overly extreme I people, and then you have overly extreme analytic people, when there really is a balance. The analytics is really only designed to get you to the table to have a deeper probe into what Mike was just talking about. Okay. So if I'm looking, collegiate is going to be a little bit different than the pros. Collegiate is going to lead you to the well in order to figure out which one of those ponies you're going to take to the racetrack. All right. The eyes is what you then decide once you get to the well to say, okay, what I need for what my team is built for, that's the pony for me. That's the analytics is designed for, and the recruiting part of what we do. In the pros, the difference is how long am I going to sign this guy? What does his numbers tell me? What does his numbers tell me about his consistency? What does his numbers tell me about how he performs in backs-to-backs? What does his number tell me on if he has any longevity left in him, or is he starting to taper off? Is he strong in the beginning of the year? Is he tapering at the end of the year? Or is he coming on at the end of the year? Okay, based on our system, who we got coming back, who we're trying to bring in, does he fit the mold? Is his shooting percentages, because we have a center now that we're going to be feeding, is he going to be somebody that's capable of spotting up? Okay, that brings me to the well. Now, I need to have deeper discussions. As Mike said, he's alluded to, who's he hanging with? What's he doing in his off time? Where is he in his off season? Where is his Instagram looking like? Is he taking this seriously? How much now do I want to invest, and how much long of a tenure? Maybe I'll give him one more year to kind of see where he's at, as opposed to giving him a $75 million deal, and then all of a sudden we lose him, i.e. your Eddie Currys and certain, just situations like that. So absolutely, Mike, I think there needs to be a balance. No one situation is going to tell the story, because as you said, I can love the look of the kid. I can look at him and say, dang, he's a thoroughbred. But is his numbers going to speak life to that? You know what I mean? Is he a guy that's a 1 week trick pony? Dang, I might get 20 in 2 games in the week, but get 5 in 3 of the others that we have in a 5 and 7. You know what I mean? 5. When I say 5 and 7, 5 games in 7 days. You know what I mean? Or am I going to get that guy that's giving me 26 and 4 out of those 5 nights, and then on the other nights he gave me 18, 7, and maybe 3. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of stuff that the analytics would do.
And I think we've also seen how analytics have changed the way contracts are structured, right? Guys are getting paid right now as role players, because let's say they're 10.
Now,
if we could have just, if our parents could have just held on for 10, if our parents could have just kept us in the womb for 10 years, we get 50, 70 million right now.
I know y'all old now. Like, wait a minute, they get paid off.
Man. Go ahead.
Oh, you good? They get paid off potential now. This is what they pay in the professional sports now. If you get enough GMs saying, I like this kid, then one GM is going to pull the trigger and pay that person. But at the same time, they don't even know if that person is going to produce. They just know that there's an opportunity maybe in the next 2-3 years that this player might become what they hope that this player has the chance to become. But they still haven't proven nothing. So they'll pay potential.
So like an arms race almost.
Potential is not supposed to pay. Potential is only supposed to give you time to develop into that player to get paid. And they're saying you have a chance to become this thing, but you're not there yet, so we're going to give you time. But that don't necessarily mean that we're going to pay you, because once we pay potential, they ain't got to work for nothing no more. They got exactly what they wanted out the deal. They never had to become nothing in order to get paid, and you already given it to them.
I got a question for you guys, kind of off topic a little bit, but you Strick mentioned, hey, what's his Instagram doing? Are you guys glad? I mean, obviously you wanted to maybe stay in the womb 10 years longer and have an opportunity to get some of that these ridiculous contracts that are getting adult shelled out now. But are you also glad that you played in an era where social media wasn't a thing like it is now?
Yes, I do.
Man, I remember I played summer league when I first went to Miami, and that summer I played in the summer league. Man, I was averaging 30 in the summer league. Like, I was destroying summer basketball, but the only thing that you'll hear about is a newspaper clipping. You know what I mean?
All right,
like,
okay.
That's true.
That makes sense. Yeah,
That's
you didn't have
true.
no
Now,
baller TV, nothing like that.
I think on the court, yeah. But
no, not off the court. Definitely not off.
I'm speaking off the court.
Definitely not off the court.
I'm speaking off the court. So we ain't talking about on the court social media aspects.
Your video now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I tell people this story all the time when I was with the Mavs. I say, look, when I used to have certain situations and events at the crib, people would be like, Strick, I heard it was going down over at the crib last night. I heard it was jumping off over there. And I could be like, man, no, it wasn't going on, man. It was just a few people over there, man. It wasn't all that. I can say that. But now,
yeah. They telling.
They got footage. They got photos of it.
Everybody is TMZ now, man. Hey,
Right.
before we go, because I got to do this, because this is the favorite part of my show and this show, and getting to have guests on and guys like you that, again, I've got 2 decades plus of NBA experience here visiting with me here on the Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. Again, go to eplaybasketball.com and find out how we are revolutionizing the game and changing the game with emphasis on players first. So Mike James, Erick Strickland, EPLAY Basketball, at EPLAY Basketball on Twitter and Instagram, and certainly want you guys to subscribe and like our videos here on YouTube, EPLAY Recruiting Analytics. Before I go, you guys were teammates. You teamed up again with me here today. You guys played in the league together. You guys got a chance to be teammates. I love stories. Mike, you know I love stories. I got some great stories from you last time, man, especially that Wizard story. That was fun. I got to hear a story. Pull back the curtain. What
is Mike, you still married, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I won't be telling no stories. Okay, we good.
A story that is basketball related that would be fun, right? So there's got to be a basketball story. Something that we can keep keep on the court.
Hey, look, man, I don't friend and tell. So that I just want to make I don't friend and tell unless you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't bad stuff, man. It was just fun stuff, you know, me being out, you know, I'm a you know, my wife knows I'm wild. So, you know, she knows I might have had some from Rick's or Sue's Rendezvous sitting on my lap. You know? And Mike might have been there with me. Now, Mike was over there maybe drinking some water. You know what I'm saying? He was only drinking water and just observing the atmosphere. I maybe brought Grand Marnier or something.
This is great,
you know?
man.
But I might have had something sitting on the lap.
You think something was wrong. You was doing something wrong, and all you doing is just watching, making sure the guys and stuff, making sure they stand under control and nothing happened.
Right.
That's it. Steak and eggs, man. That's it.
We there for the steak and eggs. We there for the steak and eggs.
But no, real talk though, and Mike, I'm gonna let you speak on it before we close. But real talk, man, for the most part, us as teammates and players, there was a camaraderie, there was a brotherhood, and we looked out after each other. Whenever we was out, there was no drama breaking off. So we always took care of each other, man. And that was the one thing that I always loved about the brotherhood. That was real. You know, even though some people maybe had some agendas, but I'm gonna let Mike speak.
No, but we love God. You know, we was a team of guys that loved God. And even though, you know, and if one of us was out of order or out of line, like we would check, like, you know, Strick had to check me before. And so it's just like, you know, because of our relationship with our Heavenly Father, man, we would do Bible studies together. We would always check in, man, how's your faith? Where your faith at? Later for what's going on with this basketball, later for all the other stuff. Where are you spiritually? You know, and we was always able to check each other. And that's the one thing that I appreciated with Strick and also with Michael Redd. And that was where we was able to really build our relationship. It wasn't just the befriending of one another and the respect that we have for each other on the basketball court, but it was the relationship that we had spiritually with one another. That's where we was really brothers. That's where we really joined the brother. And we had a real, and it was like, man, I really like this guy. Because not only, you know, is he trying to be a better player, he's also trying to be a better person. And in return, this is who I want to be around. I want to be around like spirits, like-minded people that's going to help me, because I'm at the crossroads where, you know, I'm still young in the game and now starting to get a little bit of success. And you can go either way. You can go with the world, and also God was giving me a foundation of him earlier in my career. My rookie year, I had likes like LaFonso Ellis, Brian Grant. These are guys spiritually that I befriended when I was in Miami. And it was just like, even when I was in Milwaukee, God, whatever team that I was on, God has always given me a group that I can build a relationship with, not just as a friend, but as, you know, as brotherhood in the body of Christ. And that's even more important.
Until Terry Porter freezes you out, and then it gets so, hey, man, we got to, hey, you know.
But you know what was interesting about that deal? He kept me in the game. Like, I was sitting there, and I was sitting there like, why do you still have me in the game? And then when the game was over, the first thing, we just won the game, and the first thing you do is cuss me out. Like, I'm sitting there like, this is like, but I understood that this was my story. You know what I mean? I got to understand that all those things. I remember Jeff Van Gundy in the playoffs, game six against the Dallas Mavericks. I have 26 points, and I fouled Dirk in the last 30 seconds, and he over there pulling his hair out, and I look at him and was like, man, you calm your tail down. I didn't just say that. I probably said something else, but he calls a 20-second to cuss me out. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, this is the playoffs right now. So it was almost like God gave me enough in this game, but he could never really fully give me this game because he wanted me to build my relationship in him. And he knew that if I would have gained the success that I believe that I deserved, but I believe that if I would have gained that success would have not driven me spiritually. The lack of not getting always kept me leveled spiritually. The lack of coaches, you know, treating me like this, and I never was able to build that bond with the game. So because of that, it was always me praying for God for more, coming to God for more. God, I need this. God, I need you to open this door for me. God, I need you. Instead of knowing that door is open and I got the relationship built and I can walk into the front office and kick my feet up because they giving me the green light to be able to come in and go out. I was always on eggshells, but in the process of being on eggshells, I always had to have my faith strong. And that was one thing that God always allowed me to do. So the incidents with like a Terry Porter, I would go home and I would pray. I would go home and I would, I couldn't celebrate the game. Even though I just had a great game, I felt like, man, like the only thing I can do now is get on my knees and talk to God, and God, help me through this situation. Help me understand this instead of go party and go club and everybody in the club, awarding me because they was all at the game earlier that night. I'm feeling down now. I'm feeling like, man, what's going to uplift me now? Because this is some crap. Like, I can't even have success. Even when I have success, it's like failure. So it was like, man, I got to turn back to God. I got to turn back to, my faith. I got to make sure that, because this game obviously don't love me. This game is going to turn its back any opportunity it can. But I know if I got my relationship in God, he'll never leave me nor forsake me. And I can always turn back to him. And that's the main thing, that the lack of success that this game gave me was the strengthening of my faith in the process.
Facts. I don't even need to say no more because that's my same story.
I love y'all, man. I want to do this again. Did y'all ever give Kendall Gill any trouble about his hair? Y'all remember that weird hair? He had that like the box top with the little thing up front.
I will tell you this, Kendall Gill, when we played in Miami second year, he got extensions in his hair.
Kendall was a pretty boy, man.
We went to like overseas somewhere to play. And he had extensions. He had braids in his hair, but he put the extensions to like make it longer. And we was like at some like King Castle, and we in a line about to go eat. And I see Eddie House looking at his hair as if there's a bug in his head or something. And he just screams out, "Kendall, do you got extensions in your hair?" And we just all busted out laughing. So Kendall was known for having good fun hair. He was fun hair moments.
Good. I knew I wasn't the only one, man. I saw the evolution of Kendall Gill hair for a long time.
Yeah, he's like a DeBarge brother.
right. Shalimar.
Oh, man.
Pretty boy.
I love y'all, man. I appreciate y'all doing this. I want to have y'all back on. I want to do this again. Mike, I love having you on, Strick. Obviously, you're our point guard here at EPLAY. Go to eplaybasketball.com for all of you watching and listening, paying attention. We want to show you what we're doing to try and, again, revolutionize the game of basketball through players first. Go to Hoops at Home. Also, you can check out our Hoops at Home campaign that we've got going on right now. See how you can kind of maximize your hustle, stay in the game while we're all dealing with a global pandemic. Still a lot of things going on right there. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EPLAY Basketball. And again, like and subscribe to our videos here, EPLAY Recruiting Analytics right here on YouTube. Mike James, Erick Strickland, my guys, I appreciate it. What a Friday afternoon. This was a whole lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I'm on your back now, man. You my guy, man.
I'm going to call you, man. I'm going to stay in touch, man.
Please.
Real talk. I love you, man.
This is what we do. We bringing people back together, man. Teammates back together, and it's all love. I love it, man. Thank you guys very, very much for being here, and let's do it again.
Anytime.
No doubt.
All right, that'll do it for us. For Mike James, for Erick Strickland, I'm Jamie Horton. Until next time on another edition of EPLAY. Numbers tell your story.
If you want to get noticed by recruiters at all levels of basketball, then EPLAY's Hoops at Home Challenge is your opportunity. Here's how you can participate in the Hoops at Home Challenge and create your very own EPLAY profile for recruiters and for yourself to watch your development throughout your career. Each week, we'll put out a specific combine drill for you to complete. Simply record yourself doing the drill, following our specific video instructions, and post the video to your own social media profile on Twitter or Instagram. Tag EPLAY Basketball and then use the hashtag HoopsAtHome. Then go to eplay.com/hoopsathome, click the Get Started button at the bottom of the screen, and fill out the information to start your very own EPLAY profile. Once your EPLAY profile is live, you can upload additional combine drills in the video workout section of your profile for approval. Check back to EPLAY Basketball for future combine drills and start building your profile so numbers can tell your story.
This is Brandon Dean, NBA Skills Trainer and Director of Player Development for EPLAY. Over the next few weeks, we'll be putting out a series of challenges for our Hoops at Home Challenge. These challenges will simulate drills performed at our EPLAY Combines as well as drills performed at the NBA Combine. This week's drill is the 3/4 court sprint. This is one of the simplest drills to perform, but it's one that a lot of scouts take into consideration when they look at your speed and how quick you can get to that speed. For this drill, you need to set up one place marker 70.5 feet away from your desired starting point. On your go, you're going to sprint all the way through the cone as fast as you can. Good luck.